Donald Trump is truly confused.
Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people. They don't want to talk about that.
He didn't just get me confused. He mentioned it over and over and over again. Yeah. He's not what he was in 2016. He has declined. That's a fact.
I mean, we won last time. We won 50 states, right?
This is not Donald Trump of 2016, guys.
What? What is?
If he is off the teleprompter, he can barely keep a cogent thought. I mean, that's just fact.
We are an institute and a powerful death penalty. We will put this on.
I think he's declining.
I stumbled and mumbled purposely.
I do speak in long, complex sentences, and I have a lot of material in each sentence.
You have voter ID to buy a loaf of bread. You have ID to buy a loaf of bread.
Have you noticed? He's a little confused these days.
A person close to Trump actually says that he's rattled by Biden's efforts to get under his skin.
Wow. You have voter ID to buy a loaf of bread, 1. 2, you have ID to buy a loaf of bread.
Come on.
And then he's going on and on. What's that? We are a very powerful institute death penalty?
And he famously won all 50 states in
2016, we found out.
As he said. Yeah, I mean, I'm just watching that thing. George W. Bush has to be going, they make fun of me for, what about this? But yeah, I mean, we've talked about this, but the moment where he confused, not in the slip of the tongue, but again and again, Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi was a moment for some people.
Yeah.
Right.
Who thought, maybe he really is losing it.
And you actually see it, Jonathan Lemire, in real time, where he goes, Nikki Haley, Nikki Haley, Nikki Haley, and he's searching for Nancy Pelosi's name. He goes on a little bit longer. Then he just circles back to Nancy Pelosi. And then, you know, like a month earlier, he's trying to remember Joe Biden's name. He chokes on Obama's name like he's got, like, you know, a chicken wing in his throat.
Yeah.
Obama. And then he keeps walking. He keeps on walking through that, and then he just goes back and goes, hell, I can't remember who the president is. Obama. We beat Obama. I mean, it's one thing if you slip up, we all slip up. It's another thing if people see somebody, as Nikki Haley saying, that's slowing down, that's struggling and trying to remember a name, and you see it live, and it just, again, it just keeps getting worse.
Yeah, a senior Biden campaign advisor told me just yesterday, where have you all been on this? There's like, finally, people are paying attention to the idea that Donald Trump is slipping, that age is a vulnerability for him as well. And it has taken, I mean, obviously this show has been on this for some time, but it feels like it only broke through with much of the media because of that Haley Pelosi moment we just highlighted. In the last couple of weeks, it has become a real topic of political conversation, and it's aided by Nikki Haley. You want to see the value of her staying in the Republican race? You're seeing it right there because she's talking about it, and that allows the Biden campaign to highlight words from a fellow Republican. It's not just a partisan attack. It's another member of the GOP who is reaching out to voters that simply Joe Biden would never be able to do so. And this helps blunt some of the Republican attacks on President Biden's age. He's known to make verbal missteps as well. And it gives them an attack line on Donald Trump to say this is another example why he's unfit, unstable, not ready to be president again. And yes, the polls are close. As to your point to Willie's point a moment ago, no Biden campaign staffer is doing cartwheels over that poll yesterday. They see the battleground states, too. It's going to be one on the margins, which is why the president's going to Michigan today. That's why that's so important. He knows the margin for error is slim, but they're going to stay on the attack. This is a newly aggressive Biden campaign. That's not going anywhere.
So with Nikki Haley, Elise, it seems to me it makes perfect sense to stay in the race. I mean, we're waiting, I guess, any minute now for the damages and the civil fraud trial to come down. And who knows how these could impact former President Donald Trump. We've already seen a decline, and it's got to be from the stress. And so I think it would be smart for someone to be left standing to offer the Republicans something. And also, I think her attacks on Donald Trump perhaps expose his foibles to an audience that wouldn't usually be open to it.
Well, I think in that is what nails it. that she has been able to make headway with that message that, no, Donald Trump is not just crazy. He actually is senile, too. And she's been making headway with that message, and she's gotten in some pretty good hits. Over the past since New Hampshire happened, what good hits has Donald Trump gotten in on Nikki Haley? He hasn't been able to attack her effectively. He hasn't been able to define her in the way he was with Ron DeSantis.
No,
and it's because she's a woman. He is terrible when it comes to knowing an effective way. Exactly. That whole, 83 million thing. So he really is not on high ground here when it comes to attacking Nikki Haley.
And Rev, he's in a position he's not usually in, where he's not striking back as aggressively. He's not going after E. Jean. He's got two women.
Has he done anything?
He's got two women that have just
shut down.
Let's face it, they pounded him in his pocketbook. They pounded him politically. And so he's keeping his mouth shut on E. Jean Carroll, who just won $83 million from him. And really, for the most part, not going after Nikki Haley as aggressively as he would want to, because he's got his campaign people going, please, the less you say, like, the easier our job is, Donald. Just keep your mouth shut.
I think that it is certainly that, but I also think that it goes with the fact that he's losing it. Because let's not forget, he ran against a woman at 16 named Hillary Clinton. Right. And he had no problem. He's losing it. I remember...
you've known him for a long time, so when you say he's losing it... like,
he's losing it. His instinct
is
to fight back. Punch back, and he would think back in those days that he was thinking clearer, if you want to ever call what he thought was clear.
Right.
But that he would fight back and say that they hit me, I can hit back. It reminded me, I was blessed in my younger days to know Muhammad Ali. And Ali told me one day, toward the end of his career, I saw the openings and I just couldn't get the punch there. I just couldn't. He said, I knew where to go. Sharpton, but I couldn't get the punch there. That's when I knew when to leave the ring. The openings are there for Trump. He can't get there. His mind is not there anymore. And they need to take him out the ring before he gets knocked out.
There are two other elements that are going to play into this. One is his behavior, his anger. Quite visible the night of the New Hampshire primary when he was a sore winner, attacking Nikki Haley for her dress, the dress that she was wearing, things like that. People get that. It's visible, his anger, his frustration, his rage, his inner rage. The other thing is there is going to be verdicts in some of these trials.
Right.
And a guilty verdict in one of the major trials, the January 6th trial, that gives a lot of people on the fence right now about Donald Trump an exit ramp. Oh, well, that's just too much. I can't vote for a guy who's a convicted felon and put him in the Oval Office.
Yeah, too much chaos.